Okay, here we go. SEO this week. Hey, everyone. Welcome to episode 135 of SEO this week. As most times when he's available, we are joined by my good friend Ted. Ted, say hi.
Hello. As just announcing that I'll be muting frequently because I have contractors here.
Yep. Ted's getting tile put in. We were talking tile before the show. So just don't think that we only talk about SEO. We talk about boring stuff too, like house renovations and rental properties and etc. So worldly men we are. Today we have 9 stories, some interesting news, some updates out of Google, a couple of traffic analysis tool that you guys might enjoy, and a few other things. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the questions on the top chat in YouTube, or if you're watching on Facebook, I'll get to those after the show. The podcasts are all updated on the streaming services, so that should be good to go. And hopefully, barring my complete laziness, I'll be able to keep those updated again. So that works out. And pretty soon, we'll be getting an actual person to come in and clean up all the audio and maybe do some video edits and stuff like that, and see how that works out as well. But hopefully everyone's getting something out of whatever medium it is that you choose to enjoy SEO this week, and Ted and I's, free YouTube knowledge. And we'll leave it right there. So let's see. Let's go to start the sharing of my screen. What the hell? A few spammers, stop watching my show. Damn robots calling me as soon as I start the show. I swear to God, it happens every time. All right, here we go. Number 1. This is a follow-on from the story from last week where we talked about how the no-follow links are changing. And Roger kind of pointed out, basically what he did is he just used the Google announcement. And then everyone and their brother was talking about, this is what it means. This is how things are going to change. But Google wasn't very clear on it in the first place. If you're not up to date, the standard before was no follow means not passing juice. That's everyone was believing it. Everyone was using no follow under those guys, or kind of hiding or pillowing or whatever the hell you want to call the idea of hiding your good links inside of no follow links and make it a little bit harder to find and see a diverse anchor and link profile. I've been saying all along that no follow is actually passing juice, especially when it's coming from high quality sites or high authority sites. For instance, I've ranked pages in the affiliate market for reviews, bonuses, etc., just using YouTube links and YouTube description links, which are all no follow. But it's coming from a high authority site, so it's passing trust and the ranking is going up. The same could be said for links that I was getting on like Wikipedia. I ranked a page for lead generation systems using a Wikipedia link and sending juice to that, and it was passing through and it ranked the page. So now Google is officially saying, hey, no follow is a hint, quote, in quotes, is a hint as to whether the page is worthwhile or worthy. And then they're adding the other two, what the hell you call it? What's a technical term? Attribute. There you go. I was looking for it. So there's user-generated content, UGC, and then sponsored content if you're selling links. If you're selling links, you put sponsored, or if you're doing an affiliate thing, put sponsored, and that shows Google that you paid for it or that it's paid. But it's still technically under the same process of the way the no follow was, it still works. So if you have sponsored links in your sidebar, people are paying you for that link placement or that ad placement, you would typically put no follow. Now you're going to put sponsored. And then if you have, let's say you have comments on your site or you run a forum, you change your links from no follow, which typically a lot of them are nowadays, to user generated content, UGC. This is supposed to kick in March of 2020. Some things that I would like to point out is, one, this is not a time to go out and bust open Scrapebox again and start spamming comments. Because if they switch it to UGC, it makes it easier to teach Penguin, for example, to ignore UGC links. So you're in and of itself killing the power that you would get from forums or comments, blog comments, which is a good way to do that. It was a good way to filter it out, is identify all UGC and say UGC doesn't matter anymore. We're not counting it for rankings. And you can't do that with Nofollow because you have different versions, right? So be careful with that, especially if you are still using that method. I still use XRumor. I still use Xbox. I just don't spam. We use it to find good quality stuff and leverage it that way. I do some spam, but it's like tier 5 and 6, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, just be careful and don't run it out, crazy in the world. If you're a site owner, maybe talk to your dev about changing this stuff if you want to. I'm not going to bother with it until the dev updates it, and we'll just see where it goes. And testing is actually another good thing, is test these metrics when we know that they're kicked in and they're actually being used by Google. Probably March 2020 would be a good time to plan out a test and see which one of these, or if all of these are passing juice or not, to rank your pages. So that'd be an interesting test for sure.
Well, I wonder if there's going to be a flood of topic-based directories with websites where the paid directories all use sponsored and the free directories use UGC, and then the control directories still use Nofollow. And because the thing is you can use bots to generate these types of directory sites very, very quickly. And so I'd imagine people will be testing those as like an alternative to PBNs and seeing which ones work better, or maybe even directly comparing them to PBNs. Because ultimately, the only reason you would do this is because you want to treat sponsored links differently than user-generated content links, so comments and guest posts. And so if Google is saying they want to start treating those different than the standard Nofollow, that means they're going to lighten up on one or the other. And to date, they've been treating them all as Nofollow, and they're saying if you have Nofollow, just feel free to leave them as Nofollow. That'll continue to work. So Nofollow will probably be the most strict implementation. And so one of those other two, they plan on lightening up.
I would think that it would be the other way around. I think sponsored, to me, if I was Google or if I was planning this out, sponsored would not pass any juice. User-generated content tags, those would pass juice, but it would be less than a Nofollow. And then Nofollow is the hint. Where is that link coming from? And is that a good site? And then we'll let it go.
Maybe, I could see it both ways. So I'm really interested to see where the chips fall on this, because I would want, if I were Google, I would want sponsored to have every upside possible, whether we promote it or not. I would want people to figure out, paying Google money is the path to heaven. That's the route to go. So if they can lighten up on sponsored links, and sponsored links have these unmentioned extra benefits that the community, determines and agrees upon, then, that's a good thing for sponsored links.
Yeah. You think it would be a problem for Google though, if let's go, you did sponsored links and now running ads, like, this display ad right here is essentially sending a link through the Google Ads platform.
You're hinting on the age-old promise that Google made that they would never commingle the organic results with ads.
Right.
But they've, for all practical purposes, broke that promise long ago. So I wouldn't count on them honoring that promise at this point. So
Interesting questions. How would you test it? Like, how would you test, one, the strength, which one is stronger, and then two, which one do you think, or how should you think that should be handled when you're leveraging it? Like,
well,
let's say e-commerce, because you're the e-commerce guy. In content, would you keep those no follow, and then your other stuff would be UGC, or?
It would be very difficult to test. This is the classic which type of backlinks work best conundrum. And there's a lot of complicating factors in that problem. But I would probably just keep it simple and just say, hey, do backlinks that are UGC boost a test page, 2 above, 2 below? Can we move the needle in some measurable way? And then repeat that test, and then do the same thing for sponsored, and then maybe create a leaderboard style test scenario where you have them all, and do they consistently line up in an order for test pages? Do UGCs go to the top each time? And if that's a repeatable test that produces the same outcome, then you have something.
All right. And then one last thing on this. Do you think Google created the situation where they had to do this? They were jumping on sites. Oh, you're passing juice. You're allowing people to spam on your site, or you're accepting, guest post, or you're like a Medium or a Quora that's all user generated, and you're passing juice. How dare you? We're going to penalize you until you implement Nofollow. And now that they've implemented Nofollow, they moved the bar, and now it's user generated content.
We've seen this kind of behavior before. It didn't start with Google. Actually, Microsoft invented this type of conduct, and it's loosely described as "we are the standard," and so it's not well appreciated by computer people, because we like our community standards. We like things to go through W3C and ISO, and these organizations that think of everybody's needs and say the standard should be this to best meet everybody's needs. Google's out there saying, we are the standard, so we're doing this. This is how it works, and we don't care what the other search engines want. This is what the world is now because we are Google.
Right.
And I think that sucks. And I think it sucked when they discontinued support for EVSSL. So they said Chrome won't support the extended verification certificates, so you don't get the nice treatment anymore. Anybody that invested in those, you wasted your time and money trying to achieve a higher standard. And so I think that sucked. That's another case of Google saying we are the standard, so Chrome won't support that. And now Google is doing their own extended verification in certain industries.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little nervous. I understand why a lot of countries are saying Google might be stepping into antitrust territory with some of these behaviors.
Right. Well, I can tell you one of our niches that, we think they definitely are. So it's interesting, and I'm right there with you. It's scary. Like, how far are they going to be allowed to push that boundary before someone does something? I know last week we talked about the AGs, doing the antitrust stuff, and that's finally kicking off. But really, at the end of the day, that was done before in 2013. Now they pushed the boundaries farther, and how long are we going to allow that to go and happen? So
well, there was that recent article, I forget which business did it, but they ran a Google ad saying that we didn't want to run this ad, but because Google was letting our competitors advertise on our trademark, we had to to protect ourselves.
Yep.
And what's weird is there were articles on FindLaw about Google being sued by very massive brands about those trademark violations, and they ultimately settled out of court, and Google stopped posting ads on those brands. They were brands like Microsoft. And so it seems
Toyota is another one that does that. Yep.
Yeah, it seems like if they're honoring some trademarks but not honoring all of them, that's another area where, they could potentially see some trouble down the road.
Right.
I'd imagine that the trademark database is a very finite data set, easily verifiable, that if they wanted to be good players in that, they could. I suspect they don't, because what do people want to bid on? Well, other people's brands.
Yeah.
So it seems kind of self-serving in their desire to not be a good player in the community for trademarks.
It seems like that would be an easy fix for them, though.
Oh, yeah. I bet it's like the easiest problem they have to solve. They just don't want to, because it's probably a money maker.
Yeah. Jesus. The questions of $1 billion company. Who's going to worry about what?
Well, yeah, that's why they're in the hot seat constantly, is because they don't want to be open and transparent, and they could do bad things. I don't think we know if they are. We honestly don't know, but somebody ought to check.
All right, moving on. The next one, Google announced that they're changing the rules for the aggregate rating. It says rich snippet results, but basically, if you're using the aggregate rating on your content in order to get the stars and the SERP results, they're changing the rules to how that is done. And they've actually implemented filters in the algorithm to algorithmically put this in process. And the way they were able to do that is a bunch of people were crying. They started the schema manual review process, and started. I don't know if you've ever gotten one of those, but if you're using site-wide, for example, or you didn't have your reviews on the page itself, then they were blocking, and they were giving you a manual penalty until you either A, fix the problem or remove the schema. It was probably the easiest, hands down, the easiest manual penalty to escape from, but that fed the algorithm, so now they're doing it algorithmically. One of the points that they are bringing out is local business and organization. Probably local business, this impacts more, but if you're a local business, you have a local business page, and you're using aggregate rating stars, the way that it's implemented now, according to the algorithm, will result or decide whether or not your stuff should display. Personally, I get that why they're doing it, because if you have so many, everyone is showing stars, for example, then the CTR value is useless, and then the meaning of the stars is useless. It doesn't help users, right? On the other hand, they're using it against local businesses, which goes back to my point. I've been saying this for a long time. Google's at war with small business. And basically, small business drives all their ads and their revenue. Sure, they have the big players and stuff, but big chunk of it is small business. Guys like you, me, the plumber down the street, the electrician, the roofer. Those are the people that are really at the core Google's, I don't want to say primary customer, but primary victims at this point. So when you target local businesses, you just kind of carry that war on, especially with local business schema. So the implementation now says that you cannot have self-serving reviews. And this also comes from the review snippets guidelines, which they updated today, overnight, actually. Because I have a screenshot of before where this said something completely different, and then today it says this. So says local businesses, or if you're using local business or organization structured data, you're ineligible for the review feature if the entity being reviewed, i.e. you, controls the reviews about itself. For example, now this is where it gets really confusing. A review about entity A is placed on the website of entity A, either directly in structured data or through an embedded third-party widget. Now, everyone who uses Google My Business, Yelp, Facebook, etc., can or should be using a third-party widget, as it were, to bring in their reviews and display them on their site, and that's how you meet that qualification. Here's what I think they're trying to prevent. One, they don't want you to collect the reviews on your website in a system that allows you, the business owner, to edit the reviews. And they also don't want you to be filtering the types of reviews if you filter out, for example, some plugins and tools will let you filter out 1 stars or 3 stars and below, for example, and you can only show the 4s and the 5s. And then your schema says you're a 4 and a 5 business, but you've filtered out the rest of them. So they're trying to avoid that. And secondly, they don't want you to use, again, self-serving reviews as, hey, we're the greatest business, we're number 5, and then you get all your employees to put in that, and then you create your aggregate rating. So they're looking out for those kind of things, which is pretty good at the end of the day. Another one that is bringing up the case where entity reviews control themselves. I think we've talked about that ad nauseum. So what do you do? I look through the search results, and sites that are using tools to embed I look through the SEO niche. So sites like Clutch that have embed widgets where the reviews go on, those are all still there. Sites that are using embedded reviews from Google Plus, etc., those are already there. Those are all there. So the challenge now for Google to implement this new wording would be to actually collate all the reviews and then algorithmically compare the star ratings for your business with the star ratings of what they have, and then decide whether or not they want to show you reviews. I think at that point, if they're going to do that, then they might as well just eliminate the review aggregate rating schema, collate all the data, and then show the stars themselves, which I don't think they're going to do. So your best option is to, one, avoid the manual tattletales in the space that like to go and do SEO by reporting, is basically tattletale SEO is what we'll call it today. And they'll go to businesses and take the time to look at the reviews that you have displayed and go look at all the sources and say, oh no, you should have a 4.8 and he's got a 5.0, for example, and then report it for manual review. That's probably the only way that Google's going to enforce this. So stick with the current policy of only put reviews on local pages that talk about that product or service or that location. Don't do site-wide, and have the reviews readily available on the page, regardless of where they come from. And I think you're going to be good to go.
And just remember, this year, the FTC did its first crackdown on fake reviews. So if you're in the United States, just remember that's against the law. I've had to remind some SEOs and forums that they shouldn't hand out recommendations for fake reviews because that potentially makes them an accomplice.
Plus, it's so easy to get real reviews from people. All you really got to do is ask and just make it easy for them.
Well, and if you really want to just put up a bogus rating, don't use the aggregate reviews. Use the editorial author rating.
Yep.
So you are the critic, and as the critic, you give whatever product or service 4 out of 5 stars. that's freedom of speech. There's nothing illegal with that. Just use that. It gets your stars in the search results, and it's super easy.
And it's also a different schema. So
Yeah. And it's not fake. It's your honest opinion, freedom of speech. You give it that rating as the critic.
Right. So there's that. Yeah, don't let people scare you. There's been some people on Twitter and in a group saying third-party reviews no longer count. That's not the case. As a matter of fact, third-party review systems like Google, Yelp, Facebook, etc., are all that much more important now than they were before. So continue to leverage those. And if you're not leveraging them, you should start. Next is Growth Badger, 3.25 billion site visits tell us about Google, Facebook, and different niches get their traffic. I'm not going to dig into this entirely too much, but I'm going to stick with the top takeaways. And hopefully this will at least spark your interest and get into that. So first off, Instagram, this is one that kind of surprised me. I always wanted to crack into Instagram. Then again, I'm an SEO company, so we're leveraging and trying to advertise to SEO companies, and then Instagram doesn't really play well with that. So I've been told that some people will get customers for Instagram. It's pretty interesting. But this one here is Instagram is actually driving a very little traffic, 1% across all the niches that they looked at, which is kind of scary, but understandable because it is hard to get links in there. Ted, I know ecom plays kind of pretty well over there.
Well, in general, a lot of like retailers find success like buying Facebook pages. And I know Facebook doesn't like the sale of Facebook pages, but it happens. People out there basically buy audience. And then what they do is they create content that audience is willing to engage with, typically in the form of announcing like blog posts or showing videos. Then they sell goods and services on the blog posts and in the videos. And so what you generally see when you do these types of campaigns in social is right after whatever you're promoting will get traffic, and you'll also get a boost in brand searches in general if you do it right. So you can promote, a product, and you can promote your brand, and you typically see that product spike and you see the brand search spike.
Okay.
But if you don't apply effort in social, you don't get either of those.
Right. Yeah, speaking towards Instagram, I think that number surprised me a lot. And I was like, wow, I guess I'm wasting my time on Instagram. So we'll see how that works out. And then let's see. Facebook business and marketing is 13.52% of its traffic from a network, which is actually pretty interesting. It makes a lot of sense to me, though. Well, being in business and marketing, I guess I'm exposed to it a lot more. So that's pretty interesting. And then let's see. The most important, what was the other one? This one right here. Reddit drives over 3 times as much traffic to blogs as YouTube. I've always wanted to crack the Reddit net, but as you guys all know, it's really hard over there. Like, you get beat up pretty quick for sharing links and all that other stuff. So how do you leverage being active in an active Redditor and balancing that out with driving traffic to your site? So that's something that I've always wanted to learn to crack too as well.
Isn't the traditional Yahoo questions trick or the Quora tricks applicable here, where you ask a question and you create the answer and you let your users find the answer and post it for you?
Sometimes that works. Like, you can, I won't say that I've done this. I've tried to do it and just run out of patience, but you have a brand, let's go, over the top SEO, for example, you create content and then you have your Reddit avatars go out and do what you've just said. And this is where I found it kind of thing. There's that, but a lot of people over Reddit are pretty smart and kind of picked up on, determining whether that's the purpose of what you're trying to do, et cetera. So, yeah, when I tried that over at Reddit, I got caught every time, but maybe I'm just a big dumb monkey, so we'll see. And there's full reporters for download, which is actually pretty handy, and you can take some of this information and maybe add it to your sales process, and especially if you are upselling social marketing as a tool. So there's some good stuff here to try out. The next one is Ignite Invisibility. I'm not going to dig too much into this other than to say the quality ratings guidelines were updated in September. And what they did was go through some of the information and pull it all out. Another one that is here is a from Distilled, same exact thing. And they created a checklist. So I would take these two and use what Distilled did, the documentation and their checklist, combined with Ignite visibilities, and make it something for yourself, in particular for your niche, that'll help you out. Both of these posts are great examples of how to leverage that quality raters guidelines for your SEO campaigns. And it also helps give you or create a deliverable and a benchmarking system when you're taking on clients. So you can go through a checklist like this, and that's your baseline. This is where you started from, and in your reporting, you can update that once a month or once a quarter, depending on your process, and illustrate to your clients what you did. Go ahead, Ted.
One of the ways I like to use the quality raters guidelines is I like to read it with a specific mindset. And that mindset is to take note of anything you find in there that you think Google could easily measure or detect. And the other stuff you can kind of write off. You can say, I'm not going to do that. So for example, if the quality raters guidelines say, did you see hours of operation? Well, that's something they might be able to easily detect on a web page. So put the hours of operation on your web page. Do they have a terms of service page? Well, that's something they could probably detect. Do they post contact info? Those trust signals. But then if they say something, along the lines of, does the author appear to have sufficient expertise? Well, how the heck is that going to be measured? Skip it. Those are generally the ways I like to look at that document, is what could they possibly be detecting or measuring?
And as a transition to does the author have expertise? The next topic is from Marie Hines, is how does Google measuring scientific consensus? This has been coming up from Medic in particular, especially because a lot of the alternative health sites are getting blasted. So this is a really good, if you've never been exposed to Marie Hines, she talks about eat a lot, but the content she puts out there is outstanding. So you should at least, at a minimum, be reading her stuff and getting exposed into the concept of eat and looking at a website from the eat perspective. And this really is a great example of some of that content. And she's talking about how they're using, references and from scientific articles and paraphrasing from the article, and how the manual review team was looking at these to determine, is it applicable, is it authority enough, etc. Big word for me today. And then how they kind of taught the algorithm to do this themselves. So I think it's really cool, really deep insights into this. So check that out. Ted, I think you're going to actually enjoy this one. It was well written. There is some application into it, not so much testing, but if you combine this with what Kyle talked to us about when he did the show on SEO Fight Club with Medic, a lot of this stuff really makes a lot of sense.
Well, truth is one of those complicated things where it changes depending upon who you ask.
Yeah.
If you ask you know is Tibet part of China, is Hong Kong part of China, people have different opinions on that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where those ideas of truth are probably going to be skewed for one side or the other. And so when it comes to expertise, I mean, you want the people who are telling you the truth. So it's so subjective, it's gonna be problematic. It's hard. It's a hard question to answer for a human being. It's going to be even harder for a computer to figure it out.
Yeah. To me, I think what they could have done, and this is pure speculation on my part, coming from a free YouTube channel, so pure speculation, is they got a whole bunch of scholarly sites, scientific sites, and they put together this conglomeration of this is who we're going to trust. And then they analyzed all those websites and then looked at the market space, the health and wellness market, and then said, how much is that matching? So it's almost like, to me, this would be a cool test to do to see if you can fool the algorithm, is go to a bunch of scholarly and take bits and pieces and create a web page with those bits and pieces and then see if it ranks. Does it get past that Minic filter? That would be a pretty interesting test to see if that's how they in fact did it or not. All right, let's see. Ottawa Business Journal. This is it's a kind of like a PR purse thing and article, but it's not too bad. But it talks about the age-old concept of which is how do you balance user experience versus SEO. And you get kind of two, well, there's actually three arguments. The people that are for UX, they're completely in UX. All I worry about is user experience. I don't even worry about SEO, and I'm doing just fine. The SEO is going, well, if you're just worried about that and you're doing just fine, imagine if you implemented some SEO into that, into your UX and found that balance, and now you're going to do way much better. And then the pure technical SEO, which is like, we're worried about the search engines and I'll rank first and then I'll fix user experience later. So this is an interesting article looking at those two and how the two groups are competing for the attention in this case of a business owner who's making those kind of decisions, and how to actually to go about doing. Both parties can do the same work, or if you happen to be an SEO that worries about how do I implement my SEO at the same time of benefiting users. So this would be pretty good to check out. I think it's actually pretty good article, and actually a really good discussion. And DFY links. This is by Christopher Benedez, and it's Google PageRank. Is it dead? And how to get high PR links. This note for that the site is actually, the purpose of the site is to sell backlinks. So you're going to see a lot of content on here that leads you into that direction. But this is a really good explanation of where PageRank was, why it was developed, what it morphed into, the formula for PageRank based off of what is publicly available, and how they think it was implemented. This is again, if you're not familiar with PageRank because you got in the SEO after the PageRank tool has gone away, just know that it's still there. And the way we used to do back in the day is we fire out the PageRank tool. We look at the PageRank of sites that we'd like to get backlinks from, and we shape it, and we move a PageRank 2 page to a PageRank 3 page with backlinks, and thus increasing the rankings overall of the site and making it easier. And the farther along you went, the easier and easier it was to rank a website. Well, that's no longer public, but Gary Isles and others from Google have said, hey, we're still using that process in the back end. So this is a good talk of understanding how it was done, and then what you can do to actually still quote unquote manipulate PageRank and increase the authority of your site. And that is, I think it was a really good, well thought out article, and some different ways to kick it into that. Ted, I know you measure metrics and stuff, but were you, when you were working on the e-com stuff, did you ever worry about thinking back in your head, or even when it was available, PageRank?
Oh, I loved it when Google was publishing PageRank. It was such a valuable learning tool. And the main reason is, we had like 30 websites with this online retailer, and the largest one was a PageRank 8. And so just seeing what a PageRank 8 could do was really impressive. And a footer link from the homepage of a PageRank 8, instantly made like a PageRank 3 web page.
Yeah.
And when I did a site-wide footer from the PageRank 8, it instantly made a PageRank 5 website. So if you had access to a PageRank 8 website, you could instantly make PageRank 5 websites just, that week. And I would find that when I would do my own artificial link building, the most I could make was a PageRank 6 website. To get the PageRank 7, I actually needed a real viral event and help from the internet community. And so I'd find these points of diminishing returns on link building. And so I knew I should link build to PR6, and then I needed traditional marketing to get to PR7 and above. And so I learned the formula that you eventually outgrow link building. So if you're a business, there comes a point where getting 50,000 more links doesn't move the needle, and there's no point to engage in that activity anymore, which is why a lot of enterprise SEOs, they're all about the quality of the content and engaging the market. They're typically working for brands that have outgrown the concept of link building, and they don't think in terms of like a startup who has no audience, who's trying to collect audience and needs to link build to get in front of audience.
Right. That makes sense. That's a really good point. Do you think there'll ever be a third-party tool that accurately represents PageRank?
No, I think Google was being honest when John Mueller said accurately counting links is impossible, even for Google. The number that Google has down is how many links has Google found, but that's not an accurate number for what's actually out there on the web.
That makes sense. Cool. All right, let's see. And the last story for today is actually the tool I was telling you about at the beginning, is a website analysis, traffic analysis. You plug in your analytics and stuff. This comes from Robbie Richards. If you've never been exposed to any of his sheets and stuff, I think you'll find that this one's actually pretty easy. It'll go through, and there's a checklist, etc. It's all free, so I would go ahead and get it. As a side note, I actually signed up for his course. I'm going through that course right now, this SEO playbook. Really cool so far. I'm learning a bunch of stuff, and he's really big in these sheets and Excel stuff too. So if you're leveraging those, I think you'll engage really well with him and his teaching style. Not an affiliate, by the way. But you can walk through here and it'll show you how to use SEMrush and your analytics and combine all that data and get some more information for to make solid data marketing choices. So check this tool out. And then finally, I just want to close out NFG SEO Rock Stars, or NFG Rock Stars. It is coming soon, and VIP day is closing in 3 days. So if you want to get that, basically there's a Disney Day that's September 30th. It's $350 plus the ticket. You have to buy your tickets at Disneyland. And there's a mastermind meet and greet kind of thing before that with some drinking, which is kind of interesting. And then we go and we're going to spend 7 hours at Disneyland it's a guided tour process. We jump in front of the lines and go through all that stuff. And that's going to be really cool. And then the first and second are going to be the speakers. And then there's folks like Jordan Pierce, Stephen Floyd, Kyle, Ted's going to be there, Victor, Jeff, and one guy that I'm really interested in meeting is Craig Campbell. If you don't know Craig, he's from the UK. He's got some black hat experience. He might have done even some more black hatter stuff than I would, go so far to do. So I'm interested in meeting him. I think there's some plans to try to reach out and find some more speakers. I'm not really sure. And then the third day is the VIP day, which is the day that's closing here. And basically what you can do on that day is come in and open the back part of your marketing plans, and then the speakers will get together and help you create a new one, or find some holes and fill some gaps, etc., or maybe help you solve some problems that you want to do. So I think you are going to get a lot out of this conference. It's a smaller conference, so if you're like me, introvert, you don't want to go hang out with 1,500 people and really not meet anybody in a close interpersonal way, then this is a way to do it. Again, I would recommend catching Craig, Corey's talk. Kevin, I haven't heard much about. Victor, a lot of link building and guest posting stuff he's going to be talking about. Jeff's obviously going to be talking about affiliate stuff. I'll be talking about some anchor text stuff, and I'll link building and negative SEO. Ted, what are you going to be talking about?
I am finishing my presentation on exploring outliers. We're going to look at the data and see what we can learn with real sites for real keywords.
Nice. Stephen, I don't know what he's going to talk about. Really, I've not been exposed to Stephen a lot, but he's got the big ass SEO group on Facebook. Yeah, that was pretty good. I would like to talk to him about that. And then I'm sure he's going to bring some SEO gems. Kyle's going to talk about on-page. Stephen is going to talk about reputation management. Brad and Mike, no idea what they're going to talk about. Brad's cranky, so it's probably going to be something weird. And then Jordan will be talking about more than likely the changes over at GMB and how to leverage that stuff. And then you get to meet Dory. So it's going to be a good time. And that's it for the articles. Let me stop sharing the screen. If you guys have any questions now would be the time. Let's see. And Dan Hale, being a critic, can't help himself.
Jordan wants to know if you're coming to the Thursday webinar.
I am going to try. I have another appointment set at the same time that he has his webinar. So I might be able to catch the second half. So at least be there. So that'll be good. Let's see. But yeah, I made that appointment, and then Jordan notified me about the webinar. So
Clint, I have a question. What's this week's topic on SEO Fight Club?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I haven't opened the slide deck you sent me.
Well, I'll give the spoiler. We're going to talk about learning SEO for free on YouTube.
What? No.
Yeah, figured it was about time that we gave some people some awesome free resources and show them the power of how much you can learn for absolutely free.
Absolutely free. And you know what? I think I am like most people. I have a degree. Well, I'll caveat and say I have a degree in internet marketing, and the SEO part of that degree was completely worthless unless you wanted to be in PPC, because that's where it was dived around. It was search engine marketing versus search engine optimization. So when I started SEO, and to this day, I learned from probably 3 sources: my network, Ted, Kyle, etc. And then I learned from YouTube, and I learned from paid courses that I buy, which at the end of the day are really just, this guys like you and me and gals like you and me, they go on and do pretty much the same thing. They go to YouTube or they go to other places and they, correlate this data and turn it into a course. So I think there's plenty of people out there that are passing on some good information. There's other people out there that are passing on good information, but because they have this negative attitude on life, that kind of diminishes their return. And then there's other people that are just, I guess if you're, what is that gay Jay Shaddy or whatever the hell his name was, who got caught ripping other people's stuff off and claiming it as his own. So you're going to see that out there. And then the list that Ted cut out is really people that we know are passing out. At least, it's good stuff that's going to help you, and you can do it for free. So, why, pay for courses, pay for masterminds, do all that stuff because you're going to be exposed to more and more information. And as long as you're getting something out of one each time you pay, then you're it's worthwhile. But know that if you can't, you can learn for free. You really can. SEO This Week, SEO Fight Club, Common Sense SEO. There's and tons of other channels that teach elements and aspects of this that you can combine, use your own brain, and not only start testing, but start applying. So,
yep. So we're going to talk about that.
Sweet. Well, I just stole all your thunder. So there.
Well, wait till we get into the debate of it. So yeah,
that'd be awesome.
I'm excited. It's going to be a good show.
We should bring Jordan on just so he can play the devil's advocate.
The advocate. I thought he was going to play the devil. He's going to have the costume and the pitchfork.
Nah, that's Sasquatch. Wonder if I still have that gift. That'd be awesome. We'll just put Jordan, the Sasquatch gif on Jordan's face. That'd be perfect.
That'd be awesome. Get a trampoline, make him dunk some basketballs.
Give him some Slim Jims too. Can't forget the Slim Jims. All right, so looking through the chat, doesn't seem to be any questions, so that's good. Thank you all for watching. I got 3 upvotes and 5 downvotes, which is awesome. Engagement's engagement, baby. So if you all want to, you can change all your downvotes, your upvotes to downvotes. I don't care. That's still engagement, and Google still loves engagement. So you're not hurting my feelings. And then if you want to catch SEO Fight Club next tomorrow at 11. Remember, engagements, ups, downs, and upvotes and downvotes. And then Brad, you can kiss my shining